Hello, everyone. Oh, wait. Whoa, I got to consent to be recorded. One moment, please. I consented, Olivia. We're good. All right. Hello, everyone. I am Bobbi Howe, and I am so excited and honored and all of those words I should be using right now to be here with you guys today. And this is as political as I'm going to get today, so just know that, given everything that's going on in our world right now, I feel like the timing of this topic is more important than ever. Everything that's going on in our world, it feels like the other agents on the other side of the transaction have just lost their mind. It feels like our buyers and our sellers are losing their minds. And sometimes it feels like we're losing our minds. So this session today, we are going to talk about how we stay sane in a world that has the highest of the highs and the lowest of the lows, all within minutes of each other in this industry we call real estate. This session is called Lessons from the Other Side. And before we get too far into it, I need to ask your permission today. And normally this is something that in person I can get an actual response back, but that's okay that we can't have that here today. I need your permission for us to get very personal here today. And I need your permission for me, maybe some of you, to get emotional here today. I need you to understand that what I'm about to tell you is not something I'm ashamed or embarrassed about. I'm not looking for sympathy. I'm not looking for attention. Like Elizabeth Mendenhall says, own your story. And I'm owning my story, but I also feel like I have a duty and an obligation to share that story with you guys. So before I can get into what all the lessons are, if you have children who like the Captain Underpants books, in order to tell you this story, I have to tell you that other story. Well, I got to tell you that other story first of how we ended up to where we are today and where these lessons actually came from. The story starts back in Northwest Missouri in 1953, about 2 miles away from where I'm sitting right now. Was my mother. She was born and grew up on a dairy farm. She was the only girl with 3 boys, 3 brothers. And it was her and her mom and her dad and these 3 boys living on a dairy farm. And one day when she was 12 years old, she was walking out to the dairy barn to get something. And that's where she found my grandfather, Bob. And he had taken his life through a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And in that moment, everything changed in my mom's life. She had to grow up and be a secondary mom to those boys to help my grandma out. She went through the rest of her schooling. She graduated high school a semester early, and then she married my dad. He'd gone to a different high school, and they were told that they could never, ever have kids. Well, obviously, I'm sitting here before you today, so that obviously was a lie. And then my mom went through a variety of different jobs. My mom, I'll tell you right now, she was, and this is no dig on her, she is not the smartest person in a room. She is the hardest worker I ever met. She was a forklift driver. She was a school bus driver. I remember I was small enough I could sit on the little thing right now. There was like a shelf next to the driver way back in the day on the buses, and I would sit there while she went on her routes. She broke and trained quarter horses. She became a bodybuilder, but my mom wasn't just a bodybuilder. She went on to become Miss Missouri in 1987 for her bodybuilding. And then my mom became a bank teller. And that's when her life forever changed. She met this gentleman that came in all the time named Clarence. And Clarence was always making these very large deposits on a regular basis. So my mom struck up a friendship with him and learned that Clarence was a local real estate broker. And he kind of took my mom under his wing and became like a secondary dad to my mom. And he taught her how to save up 6 months worth of living expenses so that she could go into real estate full time. I was 8 years old at the time. My mom became rookie of the year within she was rookie of the year within her first year. Obviously, that's how you become a rookie. And then she was the top agent in our area, our association, within about 3 years. And then for the next 20 years, she was the top 1 or 2 realtor in our association for the next 20 years or so. And she was your typical top producer. She was way too busy to be involved in the association or women's council, or it was CRS back in the day, or RRC now. And she burned the candle at both ends. And I grew up being her little assistant. Like I said, she got into it when I was 8 years old. She was a single parent by that time. I was an only child. I went on every listing, every showing, everything. And when I was 10 years old, I started writing my mom's contracts for her because she would put a closing on a Sunday, or she would misspell the word refrigerator. And me, being a smart aleck 10-year-old, would always correct her. And one day she goes, well, if you're so smart, why don't you just write my contracts for me? Well, I did. I wrote her contract for her. It was a perfect contract. And so from then on, I was always writing all of her contracts for her. I was doing all of her marketing and doing all of those. And the one thing I knew I was never going to be when I grew up was a realtor. And yet here I am. I actually was licensed on my 18th birthday because I didn't really have a choice. I had to help my mom out. I tried to run away from the association or from being in real estate a couple of different times, and I always got pulled back in to work with my mom. And so these stories I'm going to tell you are things that I learned from my mom, what I watched her go through as I was growing up. But then there became a time where the weight of this industry got to her. It got to the point that she would show up at the office at 1:00 in the afternoon, and I would smell something on her breath that for the longest time I tried to tell myself was probably mouthwash. It was after lunch. She'd ate lunch. Maybe she'd, use some mouthwash. And I quickly realized I was in denial myself and that she was showing back up to work in the afternoons drunk. And it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I remember the day that the straw that broke the camel's back for me was we were showing a large church to a personal injury attorney. And it was 10:30 a.m. and probably 5 feet away, I could smell the alcohol in my mom's breath. And I pulled her outside and I said, what are you doing? And she goes, that's how I deal with what I'm going through. And my heart broke for her, but I realized she didn't want to change. We had lots of conversations. She was still in denial that she could get help and that she could make change. And this is just how she dealt with an industry that had continually ate her up and spit her out as a top producer in our industry. And so I actually left and switched brands, and I went somewhere else because I realized I didn't want to forever be drunk Nancy's daughter. I didn't want that to be my legacy. I was still in my early 30s at this point, and I still had an entire career ahead of me. And this is whenever I found my place in the association world. I found like-minded people who came from contribution, who wanted to help, and I found my place. And I was thriving and having a great time still in the real estate industry that I was like, did I really want to do this? But I did. I truly found my place through the association world. And then fast forward a few years later to the Monday after the Super Bowl in 2013. So we're coming up on about 8 years now. And I was down at our Realtor Association board at a Realtor of the Year salesperson selection meeting. And I was there. My mom should have been there. She wasn't. But like I said, she really didn't do much with the association. She was a top producer. She was too busy for them. So for her not to be at a meeting, it's no big deal. I walked out of that meeting with another person from my office. We were driving back to the office. Thank God I was in the passenger seat. And I get a call from my stepfather. And I will never forget this moment as long as I live. And he said, Bobbi, your mom has taken her life. You see, I always knew this was the way that her life would end, but I had hoped to God that it wouldn't be the way that it ended. And I forever live with questioning, staying in an industry that had taken so much from me. So for a few years, I actually myself dialed it back. I became a virtual assistant for some of your top producers from across the country, and they might be here today. I can't see all the participants, but Lee Brown, Mara Neal, Brian Copeland, some of my very, very best friends. I became a virtual assistant for them so that I could stay in this industry and yet step away from it a little bit. And it was during that little bit of time that someone came with me to an opportunity to run an office of 500 agents. And I really questioned if that was the right place for me, but they saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. And so I took them up on that opportunity. And it was because of that opportunity and having to speak in front of 500 agents that on a weekly basis, trying to educate them and give them a mini real estate conference at their sales meeting every week, that I came up with what you're going to see here today, which is lessons from the other side. And these are life lessons taken from my mom's life, from my life, and I hope that they speak to you on some level here today. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to be off on the side a little bit. If you need to switch your view, you go for it. Do you make you happy? So let's make this work. think? Hopefully that's working for you guys and you can see it. This is Lessons from the Other Side. And my very first lesson that I have for you today is that work-life balance is a misnomer. And I know this is really, really hard for people, but there are going to be very few times in your life when you truly have balance. You're going to have work-heavy times of our life. And I say I need, and I'm not trying to make that about me and telling you what I need from you. It's that I've been on the other side of this and I see that people really, really struggle with this. So the sooner that you can accept that the work heavy times in your life are going to suck, the sooner you can just accept that suck and move forward, the easier it is to do it. But if you want to be a top producer in real estate, you have to put in the work. People don't just call you up because you have a real estate license. But I also need realtors to understand that you have to create time for the life side of you. And during that life side, your business may go backwards a little bit. It might suck a little bit, and that's okay because you put the time and the effort in on the work side and you've paid your dues. What is the purpose of business if not to fund our perfect life? If you're funding your perfect life but not living it, why? Is it just to put some money in a bank? I actually had some people go all in. They doubled their budget on a property just this last week. And it was an argument between a husband and a wife. And she said, what are we going to do? Just keep all this money in a bank and to pass it on to our kids and watch them just lose it and throw it away? Or are we going to actually live our lives? And for me, the purpose of why I'm in business is to have incredible life experiences. My little boy, he's 8 months old right now, and I love him and I want to create life experiences with him that I didn't have with my mom. And so whenever you do take that time from the work heavy and go to the life heavy, you have to learn how to pace yourself. You know, the Staples easy button, if we could just have a pause button and say, whoa, I need to take time for me. I need to take time for those who matter the most to me. Most people in your life are going to respect that. When you stand up and say, whoa, I need to do something a little different. But you're going to also find that there's people that don't respect you when you need to take time for yourself. And those people do not deserve to be in your life. I hope you heard me. There are people in your life today who do not deserve you for the person that you are. And I need you to kick them out of your life and let them go. Like Elsa says, let it go, let them go. And finally, find that balance where you can. Right now, because of COVID and all of the things, I'm actually finding balance in my life that I didn't plan to have, but it's a disorganized balance between running from real estate and doing speaking and being a parent mom, a teacher mom. See, I didn't even got my words right today. We're all good. But I'm finding that balance where I am this year. Am I making all of the money in the world and putting it all in the bank? No, but I found a balance that works for me and brings me pure happiness and joy. And you need to be able to find that balance where you can, but understand that work-life balance doesn't happen all at the same time. My next one is, this is actually, I'm going to say they're all my favorite. So I won't say that too, but this is one of my favorites. You teach others how to treat you. It's what you allow, what you stop, and what you reinforce. And we as realtors reinforce bad behaviors from our customers all the time. When someone texts you at 11 o'clock at night and you mumble under your breath, oh God, I could just wait until the morning, but you respond back to them, you've just reinforced to them that they can always text you at 11 or midnight and you will respond back to them. My mom was the queen of this. Back in the day before we had cell phones with texting and pagers and all of that, our house phone would ring at midnight and my mom would answer the phone and I'd be like, what are you doing? And she's like, someone's calling, they must need something. If I don't answer the phone, they'll call someone else. You don't need to answer your phone at midnight. There are very true, real estate fires. I did have a listing burned down once in the middle of the night. That's a different story, but there are true, very true real fires in real estate. The other thing my mom loved to do was on Christmas Eve. She loved to pack me up and go show houses on Christmas Eve. Guys, there are very few instances where someone needs to actually buy or sell real estate on Christmas Eve or Christmas holiday or any major holiday that you celebrate. They may be under some work obligations or have something else going on, but very few people need to buy or sell real estate on Christmas Eve. You need to learn how to set boundaries and how to set guidelines and just say no. I saw these people just treat my mom like dirt and her just take it. And so I thought I had learned how to set expectations in my own career. And then I realized I was really, really, really wrong with that. And there are two instances that I'm going to share with you where I learned I wasn't standing up for myself. And the very first one is when I was in labor with my son. I had just gone under contract with a young couple. They had 2 small children. And I was in labor in the hospital. We had just did the epidural, and the wife starts texting me that she needs to get into the house that day to measure for curtains. And I said, well, okay, I can't do that. I'm obviously in the hospital, hooked up to things. I'm not going anywhere. And I said, but I've got another agent who can show to you. No worries, no problems. And she said, I'm not gonna let somebody else show this to me. You can do it. And I was like, I literally cannot. And my husband finally took the phone away and said to her, she'll get back to you when she's had my son. And I thought, no one could. It was even more funny, the story, she later ended up becoming a preschool teacher for my son. And I always laughed when I saw her, like, you had no idea. But I never thought anybody could be more bold than she was that day. And I was within a few months later, I discovered how very wrong I was. See, it was the day of my mom's funeral, and someone needed to see a house that day. And I kindly explained to them why I would not be available to show houses that day. I kind of had something important going on in my life. I had a lot of family in from out of town, putting my mom in the ground. This is a very somber, surreal day, and real estate just wasn't up on my schedule. And I said to them, but like before, I have someone else lined up who can show you the properties. And they said to me, but Bobbi, it's not like you're going to be at the funeral all day. And that's when I realized those people did not deserve me. And I actually gave them away to probably one of my least favorite realtors in the local community. I was like, here, you take them, and I don't want a referral fee. You need to set boundaries. You need to set guidelines. You need to say no to people who don't deserve you for the person that you are. My next one, your perception creates your reality. Now, there's 2 parts to this. The first part is one of my favorite quotes, and I think I only say that 2 or 3 more times today, so it's okay. This is one of my favorite quotes, and it says, "I am." 2 of the most powerful words, for what you put after them creates your destiny. When someone asks you how you're doing, how do you respond? You say, I'm tired, I'm sick, I'm angry. Because when you do, you've just determined that's your reality for the rest of the day. You're angry, you're tired, you're sick. I love to throw people off. And actually, I did it without even knowing, because it's just become my script. Olivia and Cindy asked me earlier, how are you doing, Bobbi? And I said, I am alive. Because I am alive. I am here in this moment. I'm living life and enjoying it. Even when it's crazy and hairy and we don't know what's going to go on outside our own windows, I am alive and I am here. I am happy. I am all those things. But when someone asks you how you're doing, give yourself your own perception that becomes your reality, that you are what you want to be. The second part of your perception becomes your reality is with scarcity versus abundance. Now, scarcity says, there's not enough to go around. There's not enough even for me to live my own life the way I want to. And therefore, I have to keep every client, no matter how crappily they treat me. Where someone who comes from abundance says, there's more than enough to go around, and there's more than enough to go around for everybody around us. And I don't have to put up with people that are going to treat me like crap. See, my mom, she came from a place of scarcity. She came into a business that told her to go, 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 do, keep every client. Don't let anything slip through your fingers. And so because of that, she had a mental mindset that every client she had was the very last client she would ever have, that she got them from sheer luck, and she would let them run her into the ground because there was never going to be any other real estate. I already told you she was a top producer for 15, 20 years. There was no reason for her to believe that there were not going to be any more clients. Yet that was the story she told herself over and over again. And so from that becomes the story of my very favorite, least favorite clients. It's my favorite story to tell. It's the story of Marcy and Jean. Now, on the surface, Marcy and Jean were fine people. Please know that. But at their core, they were horrible human beings, and they proved themselves to do just that for me. And I truly believe to this day that they are horrible human beings deep down on the inside. You see, for over 5 years, Marcy and Jean would go under contract on a property they wanted to purchase. The very next morning, they would wake up and go, oh, no, we don't want to buy that one. We need to get out of the contract. That's not the one for us. Over a 5-year time frame, we did that 7 times. And almost every single time I would have a conversation with my mom, like, why do we keep working with them? I mean, why don't we just actually work with someone that, I don't know, wants to actually buy or sell real estate? And my mom said 2 things to me. And I know you've said it because I've caught myself saying it before. Number 1, we've worked with them for so long that we are owed something. At some point, you do start losing money. I need you to realize that. But the second part of that was that I want their referrals someday. There could be more business that comes from them. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why we don't want referrals from people like Marcy and Jean. So during the time my mom was on this fine, wonderful earth, she never got to sell them a house. But I did, and it was amazing. Not. And as a part of selling them the new house, I had to sell the house they lived in. And they went on the market. This was back in 2013, 2014. So back before the market got really, really crazy like it is now. We were on the market one day. We received an over list price offer from the daughter of a local top producing realtor. Like, it could not be any better than that. And I remember sitting at their dining room table and going over the contract with them. And they got into one of the worst fights between a husband and a wife that I have ever seen in my entire life. And literally at one point in time, I was about ready to call 911 because I thought the wife was going to physically abuse the husband in front of me. And they weren't even fighting about the contract. I don't remember what they were fighting about, but it was this horribly awkward moment. And I just remember praying to myself, like, God, please let me out of here. Please let these people get out of my life, because this is not worth the money that I'm owed at this point. And so we got out of it. They signed the contract, but we were 2 weeks out from closing, and I get a call from Marcy and Jean. And it was from both of them, because you could never talk to one without the other. They'd both be on phones throughout their house. And they said to me, Bobbi, what's this $2,500 in buyer paid closing cost? The seller's paying on the buyer's behalf. And I said, well, that's why the buyer came in over list price. It's just helping them get in because they're using all of their money on their down payment. It's not a big deal. It was in the contract. It was on that net proceeds sheet you signed. It doesn't affect your bottom line at all. Your number stays exactly the same as what you agreed to. And they said, but Bobbi, we would have never, ever agreed to that. And I said, yeah, you did. Your signature right here. And they said, well, you must have forged our signatures. We're not selling the house, and we're not buying that other house. And I said, oh, yes, you are. At this point, these people had been a part of my life for 9 years, and I would have given up every bit of commission if I had to get them out of my life. I didn't want their money. They were dirty, horrible human beings that had caused me and my family nothing but stress for 9 years. And now, what was I going to walk away with? Some money in the bank? No. And so I paid that $2,500 on their behalf, and I got them the heck out of Dodge. A year later, they actually moved out of town. They moved back to town and bought the house across the street. I said, nope. And I have yet to go over there or do anything like that. But we all have Marcy and Jeans in our life. We all have those clients that have used and abused us, and we need to let those people go out of our lives. They don't deserve us. Here's why my mom was wrong, because I was working at a net negative at that point. I had lost so much money by the time and effort and emotion that I had given to those people. But the second part of what my mom said was, I want their referrals. You see, we are the sum total of the 5 people we are closest to, Marcy and Jean were the sum total of the 5 people closest to them. Any referrals they would have given to me were going to be people just like Marcy and Jean, and I didn't need them. I'll never forget the power of letting my own first client go. And it's so funny because it had been after the 2010 NAR conference in New Orleans, and I came home with some gumption on this listing that I had that I just needed to get rid of it. You see, the listing, my seller was my college economics professor. And this is back in the days before showing time and CSS and all of that kind of good stuff. So on Wednesdays, I would call my sellers and say, okay, well, here's why your house hasn't sold yet. You're overpriced, you're outdated, and no one wants to live in this house. That's not really what I would say, but you get the gist. You've been there. And every Wednesday, this client would fight back with me and he would say, no, Bobbi, the reason my house hasn't sold is because the consumer spending index is here and consumer confidence levels are here. And I would argue back and forth with him. Well, I went to NAR in New Orleans in 2010, 10 years ago. And I said in a session, and it basically told me, let those people go. If they don't actually want to sell their house, stop wasting your time. So I came home and said, it's just not going to work. You need to find another realtor. It was 2010. I looked it up. The house finally sold in June of this year. You guys, it was on the market for 10 years. I think he went through like 20 different realtors. I think he rented it out for a certain period of time, but that could have been me. No, if it were my mom, it would have been my mom. For 10 years, she would have tried to sell something and wasted all that time. So let those people go. Don't keep them. Next point. You are a business owner, act like it. The number of leads you have in your business is directly proportional to the health of your business. If you have an increasing number of leads, your business is growing. If you have a steady number of leads, your business is steady. It's fine. But if you don't have any leads coming in, your business is dying. I used to challenge realtors when I would sit down with them all the time and they'd go, but Bobbi, you don't understand. I'm not a lead generator. If you own a business, and if you're a realtor, you are a lead generator. Every business has to generate leads to stay open. I'm not saying you got to call FSBOs. I'm not saying you got to door knock, but you have to do something to generate leads in your business. Starbucks stays open because it generates leads. Hospitals stay open because they generate leads. You have to do something to generate leads in your business. And the other thing that I see realtors do is they do not have profit and loss statements and they do not have budgets. And not having a budget is the surest way to get yourself out of this business. You will one transaction yourself to death in this business when you go to a conference and you see some flashy thing and you're like, "Ooh, it'll pay for itself in one transaction." Stop that. If it's not on your budget and if you don't have room for it in your profit and loss statement, stop. Don't do that. My mom, she would just buy stuff just because somebody called her up and she thought they were a nice person. Don't. The other thing I need you to understand is the cash flow quadrant. I have a monitor over here, so I got to kind of look awkwardly. So my apologies, friends. But if you see in the upper left-hand quadrant, you've got E for employee, and that's someone that has a job. They have no leverage and time equals money to them. Now in the bottom blue, lower left-hand quadrant, you see self-employed. That's where you create a job. And this is where I see realtors all the time say they are. I'm self-employed. I'm going to tell you in a minute why that's not true, but time is more money for you. What I want you to do is I want you to cross over to the orange-red side and go up to the top to the B. That's for business owner. And that's where you have people who work for you. You own a system and people work for you. And at this point, people become money for you and you have leverage in your business. And as a realtor, you are a business owner. You do hire people to do things for you, whether it's your professional photographer, whether it's your stager, whether it's your closing coordinator. You have people you hire. You are a business owner. In the bottom left-hand corner, this is where we find true wealth. This is investors. That's where your money works for you and you get passive income. And money brings you money. Now, the reason why this is important is that 95% of Americans are over on the blue side in the E and in the S, and only 5% of Americans are over on the red orange side with business owners and investors. But 95% of the wealth in America is on the business owner side, and only 5% of the wealth is over on the employee and self-employed side. If you want to create a legacy, if you want to build wealth for you and your family, you need to understand that you are a business owner and you are over there on that side working to become an investor. My next one is face your fears. Now, fears can stand for one of two things. It can stand for forget everything and run, or face everything and rise. And so often as a people, we run away from pain much more quickly than we will run towards pleasure. We are really good with negative self-talk to ourselves, and we tell ourselves, I'm not worthy of that pleasure, but I sure don't want to feel the pain. Growth happens when we get outside our comfort zone, and we have to learn how to get comfortable being uncomfortable. Putting ourselves in those uncomfortable positions teaches us how to become comfortable. I'll tell you, every single time I make an agreement to go out with some friends, and it sounds like a great idea at the time that we're making it, when it comes time to leave my house and go do it, I don't want to do it. I would just rather stay at home and be a hermit. I'm that person, okay? But every time I force myself to just take the step out the door, I'm so happy I went and did it. I'm so happy I put myself in that uncomfortable position, because even if it's just hanging out with people, I usually learn and grow in some way. Everything you want is typically on the other side of fear, and you just have to do something to get past it. You see, the points I've shown you so far are typically things that my mom failed at. She didn't really fail because she learned from them, but they were things that I learned, and I didn't want to do things that way. My mom was fearless. My mom barely graduated high school. She didn't go to college. She'd been a forklift driver. She broke and trained quarter horses, and yet she was the top producer in real estate in our community for almost 20 years. She didn't let the fear of a no come to her. But my mom had a big history leading up to that. When she was in her 20s, she went cliff diving, and she crushed her tailbone. And she went for like 8 years before she let the pain get to her and do whatever. And it was during that time that she started breaking and training quarter horses for people. And then it was after that she became a bodybuilder and went on to become Miss Missouri. Then after that, she became a realtor. She had no sphere. She had no money. She had no reason to think that she would succeed in real estate, except she just didn't let anything stop her. And so often we're so afraid of someone judging us, somebody that doesn't even matter in our day-to-day lives. We're so worried about, if I put myself out there, so-and-so might judge me, so I'm not going to put myself out there. And if you never put yourself out there, you will never succeed. My husband taught me this quote. He says it's from George Carlin. I don't think it is. I can't find out where it came from, but I love this quote. And in the world we're living in today, it is so essentially important. And it is, worry is interest paid on a debt that may never become due. How much time do we spend worrying about something for it to never happen? Or if it does happen, it's only a small variation of what could have possibly happened. We are really, really good at worst case scenarios and deciding, that's what it's going to be. We don't have to do that. Live your life, make mistakes, fail forward. I know very few people that have ever made a mistake and didn't learn from it. You know, it's one step forward, 2 steps back, but I'm still going forward. Actually, 2 steps forward, 1 step back. See, I can't even talk today. I'm still moving forward. I'm doing what I need to do. I had the opportunity to fail forward at a very, very high level when I took over running an office of 500 agents. What you see before us is a graph of the fundamental ceiling of achievement. And we loved, as a society, to love on entrepreneurs. But when you truly think about a serial entrepreneur, what do? They skip from one business opportunity till it gets hard, and then they got the next one, and then they got the next one. Your true serial entrepreneurs jump from thing to thing to thing to thing to thing, always getting that new bright flashy thing. That's why it's not good for us in business, because an entrepreneur goes until they hit a ceiling, then they get some disappointment, then they resign to that's how it is. They get to the bottom and, ooh, there's a greener pasture. We're going to go for it. But when we can learn how to push through that hard time, when we have that initial disappointment, that's where we can find true greatness on the other side. You see, my first 90 days where I was running this office of 500 agents, every day on my drive home, it was about an hour away. On the drive home, I would say, that's it. I'm quitting. I'm done. And I would go to bed and I'd wake up the next morning and I'd be like, you know what? I think I can do this. I got this. And I would drive to work and I would tell myself positive, powerful things, and I would put my head down and I would do it, and it would be great. But then by the end of the day, I was so worn out, and I just truly believed I wasn't cut out to do what I could do. But what I discovered during those first 90 days, if I would have quit, I would not be sitting here before you today. I became a totally new person during 2005, 2015, 2016. Anybody that knows me from before that time that knows me now will tell you they see the true difference. And it's because I didn't quit. I pushed when the going got tough. And what I created was a new floor for myself and a new ceiling to push through. And I've pushed through those ceilings a couple of different times. But that's the beauty of pushing through a ceiling, is that you give yourself a new floor that you never, ever go back to. My next point, oh, I like this one too. All right. Don't judge your insides by other people's outsides. Oh my gosh. This is Facebook syndrome on steroids. We love to sit and tell ourselves that we're a piece of trash and that we are absolutely worthless because we don't have the beautiful house that Susie lives in. We don't have the 100 clients lining up to sell their house with us like Johnny does. What is going on someone else's outsides, what they're telling you on Facebook, tells you nothing about what's going on their insides. Everyone is facing a private battle, and we are so quick to say nasty things to ourselves because someone else is putting a Pinterest perfect life in front of us. Very few people's lives on Facebook are like they are in real life. Very few people will show you the best of the best and the worst of the worst. You usually get one of two people. You either get the victims that everything is wrong in their lives, and you know those people. And if you're that person, please stop. It's annoying. Or those people that everything is perfect in their life. And there's a lot of us that are somewhere in between. We share a little bit of both. But we will judge ourselves against those people that live perfect lives. And here's why you cannot do it. This is the iceberg illusion. This is actually a little bit of Pareto's principle. 20% what we see up on top is the success that other people are having. But what we do not see is that 80% that's below the water. Their persistence, their failure, their sacrifices, the disappointment, the discipline, the hard work, and the dedication. Comparison can become a thief of joy for you. So stop worrying about everybody else and just make your life the best that it can be. Go put yourself out there and do what you need to do for yourself, but quite frankly, screw everybody else. We don't need that. The next one, I know it's a trite saying and we're all sick of hearing it, but the struggle is real. And the quicker that we can learn how to become vulnerable and transparent, the quicker that we can come together as a people. I truly believe this is one of the reasons why we are so divided as a country right now, is because we're all putting on these masks and not being vulnerable and transparent with the way that we are feeling on the inside. We have a duty and an obligation to come together as a people and to stop arguing with each other. I know the times in my life that I have been vulnerable and been transparent, usually people flock to me and they say, gosh, Bobbi, I'm really struggling right now too. But when we all put up the face like everything's okay, then no one understands what anybody else is going through. You see, my mom's story is very much that of Robin Williams or Kate Spade or Anthony Bourdain, though I truly believe you could see Anthony publicly dealing with his demons, struggling with his demons. But Robin Williams was a comedian. Kate Spade was a designer. They had these perfect lives. And when everything happened, no one could believe that they would take their lives. The same was true in my own community when my mom took her life. You see, we show up, I get the call, everything happened at her house. It was a self-inflicted gunshot wound. And I show up at her house and I'm talking to the coroner and I'm asking the coroner, hey, when we do the autopsy, are we going to be able to check and see if she was taking her antidepressants? And she had a husband of 2 years, actually, which is about a week away from their 2-year anniversary. And he looked at me and he goes, what antidepressants? And I was like, she's on like 75 of them. What are you talking about? So we go back into the house and they had his and hers bathrooms, and we go into her bathroom. And in her bottom drawer in the bathroom, I pull out 2 large gallon-sized bags of antidepressant meds. Something I knew was a part of her story. Yet her husband of 2 years, someone that lived with her day in, day out, did not understand that depression was something she was struggling with. Then there were the local people in our community that says, Nancy would never take her life. Nancy's such a happy person. They called the FBI to accuse my stepfather of murder. No, I was the one person in my mom's life that knew this is unfortunately how it was going to end, most likely. But my mom didn't have a group of people to be vulnerable and transparent with. She was afraid that if she became vulnerable and transparent, people would use it against her and she wouldn't sell as much real estate. She lost her life because she was worried about selling real estate. Be human, connect with others. That's why we're here. That's why we're in this world. The next one feeds off of this. It takes a village, but it doesn't just take a village to raise a child. It takes a village to raise a human being. And there are 2 parts to your village. Who is in your village and whose village are you in? You see, I am very privileged to have an amazing village around me. When I was struggling in my first 90 days running my office, the 500 agents, and for the next 3 years, it didn't go away. Like I got through it and we made it. And then I had some ups and flows. But after about 2.5 years, I was questioning whether this was the right thing to continue doing on a long-term basis or not, because I was taking a lot of time away from my family. I was not seeing my little boy growing up. I was leaving early in the morning. I was coming home late at night. And I needed to know whether this was the thing I wanted to do. And so for 6 weeks, I kept trying to post this message. My village is a Facebook group of top realtors from across the country. I think there's some of them here today. You know who you are, and I love you. And I posted out in that group that I just don't know what to, well, I kept writing this post. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know where to turn. And I was really, really scared that if I put it out there that I'm thinking about just going back and selling real estate, that some people would think I wasn't worthy, or that I hadn't succeeded, or that I had failed. And so for 6 weeks, I kept deleting that post. And finally, one day I was like, screw it, I need help. And so I was vulnerable, I was transparent, and I put it out there. And you know what happened? Every single person responded to that post. Some of them gave me advice, some of them gave me ideas, but almost every single one of them told me they loved me. And to this day, I actually got a text earlier just this week of one of the people in that group that says, hey, Bobbi, I just want you to know I love you. We do not tell the people in our village often enough that we love them. Pick up your phone right now. I can't even see your faces, so it works out perfectly. Pick up your phone and just randomly, oh, thank you so much for showing your face. I love you. You don't have a name there, but we're good. Tell someone that you love them. They're probably going to wonder what you did wrong, but that's okay. But text them and tell someone you love them. The other part of a village is, whose village are you a part of? See, when I was pregnant with my son, I found this website called The Bump where pregnant mommies go, and they have these birth month message boards where people that are due in the same month all kind of become friends. And so I was on there, and then eventually over time, we became a Facebook group. And my son was due in October. He came late September. So we were the pumpkin patch, because that's what's in October. And I have now been with these 150 women all over the country for about 8 years now. And when your child does something really weird, like sticking a pea up his nose, you can ask him, hey, is your kid sticking peas up his nose? Oh, good, because mine is too. My child is totally normal. We see as a part of that group, there was a little girl in the group named Zoe and her mom, Casey. And about 4 years ago now, little Zoe developed a pediatric brain cancer known as DIPG. There are no known survivors of DIPG. And we all rallied around Casey because Zoe was going to be the one kid that made it through this. Most children, when they're diagnosed with this, they live 9 to 11 months after diagnosis. 1% make it 2 years or more. So we rallied like the village that we were around Casey, and we raised money and we sent them over to Germany to do some experimental trials with this brain tumor. We sent them to Mexico for some more experimental trials. And sadly enough, little Zoe made it 1 day short of 2 years. She was almost in the 1%, and we knew she was going to make it, but she didn't, unfortunately, because that's just life. It's how it happens. But the most amazing and beautiful thing happened. Of those 150 women in the group, 121 of them showed up to Rochester, New York, to this little funeral for Zoe. We came to Casey's aid in the moment she needed it the most. You see, my mom didn't have a village. She wasn't in anybody's village, and no one was a part of her village. We all need a village. So go figure out who's in your village and whose village you can be a part of. The next one, take time for those who matter most. I know this is trite, and I know we all know this, but sometimes, gosh darn it, we just need to be reminded of it. And this is your family, this is your friends, and you. You need to take time for you because you matter. You are important. And if no one's told you you are important lately, I'm telling you right now. I saw a Facebook argument last night where somebody told one of my friends they were not important. And I was like, oh my God, how could a human being tell another human being you are not important? And I need you to kick out those people from your life who bring you down. I want you to get out your calendar. My calendar's gone away from me. And when you look at your calendar, realize it's not about prioritizing your schedule. It's about scheduling your priorities. And when you schedule those priorities, those things that mean the most to you, yourself, your family, your friends, you let nothing get in the way. When someone wants that time, you say, sorry, I'm booked. How about this time or that time? You teach them how to treat you. If someone wants some of your time and you say, I'm so sorry, my son's soccer game is at that time, there are certain people, you've taught them how to treat you, that will put you on a guilt trip until you go show them that property. Because it's just one soccer game. There's going to be thousands of other soccer games. Now you've just taught them that you will give up your family for them every other time. They don't need to know why you're already booked, what your other priority is, just that your time is booked. My other point is sometimes we can't let all of the people go from our lives. Some of them we have to keep in just for certain periods of times. Eventually they will go on. But when you get someone calling you and you see the name coming up on your caller ID and you make a face like, I make that face, my child immediately knows it's one of two people if I make that face. Let them go to voicemail. You call them back when it works for you. Do not let them intrude on your day and decide how your day is going for the rest of the day. Let them go. My next point, people love to fight with me on this one. If you can fix a problem with money, it's not really a problem. Some of the greatest stressors we have in our life revolve around money. We see marriages and relationships crumble all the time due to money. You guys, we work in a real estate, or we work in an industry where we can go create money through our hard work and through our hard effort. We are blessed with the ability to go create money. You see, it was May of 2016. I was on my way home from the mid-year meetings and I get a call from my mother-in-law who tells me that the IRS is at my front doorstep And I said, excuse me? Oh, by the way, they have badges. If the IRS has never come to your door, they have badges. Well, she goes, yeah, you owe some back taxes. And I was like, yeah, no, sure I don't. Talked to the IRS. And what I discovered is that 5 years prior, my brother-in-law, my husband's brother, owned a lawn care company. He got in trouble with the IRS for not paying taxes. He was required to take the company out of his name and he put it into his brother's name, my husband, without any of our knowledge. And then for 2 years, he didn't pay his trust fund taxes, which trust fund taxes are the one thing that don't get reduced. They don't go away. You know, those commercials, oh, $8,000 in taxes, get it solved for $800. Yeah, no. So we owed 2 years worth of trust fund taxes. I had 30 days to come up with $68,000. Now, I don't know about you. I don't just have $68,000 just laying around. But if I didn't come up with it within 30 days, they were going to freeze all my assets and do full audit on me. Now, I don't know about you. I use an accountant. All the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, but I've never known an audit to go well for any realtor. And I didn't want them going through all of my stuff. I discovered I had a college fund for my son I could take the money from. It cost me $93,000 to get the $68,000. And it was during that stressful time that I started to realize it's just money. I can go make more. This is not going to make or break me. I'm not going to die over this. My mom took her life. Little Zoe died of cancer. I took my job over because someone was in jail. Those were not problems that could be solved with money, but me giving the IRS some of my son's college fund, I could do that. I didn't want to do that. It wasn't my problem. I didn't create it, yet it had become my problem. I had to fix it. Then you see it's like 3 months later, my basement flooded and I had to come up with another $25,000 overnight. And that's when I really started to reset my mindset around money. That doesn't mean it's not going to be stressful. It doesn't mean it's going to be horrible. It doesn't mean there's not going to be nights where you fight with your spouse. But if I can solve a problem with money, it's not a real problem in the problems it faces in our world. 2 years later, the IRS showed back up. They needed another $40,000. That's a story for another time. They came with guns this time. That was extra fun, let me tell you what. Next one, travel expands you. And I'm going to read you a quote verbatim because I'm going to mess it up that I think applies to this and where we are in our world right now. This is a quote by Mark Twain, a famous Missourian. Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness. And many of our people need it sorely based on these accounts. Broad, wholesome, charitable views of men and things cannot be acquired by vegetating in one's little corner of the earth all one's lifetime. When you go out and you see the world, you expand as a human being. Opportunities come if you are in the right place at the right time. You see, at one point in time, I told you my mom was a factory forklift driver. Well, at one point in time, my mom, my dad, and my stepmom all worked in the same factory. And they had that factory worker mindset. We clock in, we clock out, we go home, we repeat. They didn't believe they were people who traveled. But when they would trade me off custody, they would leave me in the break room. And there was a period of time where these men from Japan were coming in to work on the machines. And they would often speak to me in the break room. They're the ones who taught me the way to solve a maze is you start at the end and you go back to the beginning. I still have a pouch of yin. And it was from my relationship I developed with these men that I started to have an expanded view of the world. I spent a summer in college living in Mexico and taking all kinds of amazing adventures that pushed me to be the person that I am today because I went out and I saw and I expanded myself. We're running out of time, so I gotta push through. Your health is your most valuable asset. Your health is your wealth and your body is a temple. And I know that sounds so trite. I've said that a couple of times, but if you don't have your health, what do you have? Life isn't meant to be living.
Tomorrow, Friday. So
someone needs to pause. Life wasn't meant to be living in a bed. Life was meant to be lived. And this is both your diet. This is your exercise. And I don't mean you need to go out and go run a marathon. If getting off the couch today for you is going out and walking a half block and turning around and coming home, then you do you. But the other part of your health is your mental health, whether that's journaling, whether that's praying, whether that's yoga or meditation. Find your way to take care of your mental health as much as you're taking care of your physical health. Next one, never stop growing. How do we know if a plant's alive? It continues to grow. We need to become students of life. We need to find a way to give back. For me, the association world did that for me. I was burned out at 18 in this industry. And yet when I found the association world, it gave me a whole new life. One of the ways that I love to do this is through what I call a growth plan. I'm going to talk about it. I'm speaking for NAR next week, and I talk about my growth plan during my session there. But basically, you take a piece of paper, you put all 12 months on it, and you give yourself 3 little dots under each month. And then go ahead and plan out for the next year. What book do you want to read each month? What new skills do you want to develop? What months do you want to take a vacation in? What days do you want spa days in? Plan those things out as a part of your growth plan. And if you're a reader like me, this has actually been a part of my presentation for the last 3 years. And finally this year, people are starting to read it. But I highly implore you, as someone who's in the real estate industry, to read the book Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. I won't go into it here now, but if you are in real estate, you owe it to yourself and to your consumers to understand the lay of the law and the segregation that still exists in this country today because of laws that were put into place. My next one is, it's not all about you. Do you come from a place of cooperation or do you come from a place of competition? My mom was the ultimate one-upper. I would come in and be like, I had the best day. This, and this happened. It was amazing. And my mom would be like, yeah, well, this happened and it was even better than your story. Or, oh, I had the worst day and I was just sad, but she would always have a more sad story than me. Do not be that person. Come from a place of cooperation with other people. Listen to them. And when you see people's Facebook stories, don't immediately go and tell, well, the story that happened to me when that was, stop making it about you. We seem to do a lot of that. And this is my very last one so that we can end on time. Never take anyone or anything for granted. You see, at the very, 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 very beginning of this, I told you that the day everything happened to my mom was a day that I was at a Realtor of the Year salesperson meeting, selecting the new winner for the next year. And my mom was not there, and that wasn't unusual. What I didn't tell you was the part before that story. You see, this was in February of 2013, and my son had been born at the very end of September 2012. And this was my very first day back in the office from maternity leave. And I had my calendar out and I had my plan book out and all these amazing plans of all these things I was going to do to get my real estate business back up and going now that I was done with maternity leave, whatever that looks like when you're in real estate. Anyways, it was the Monday after the Super Bowl. The last time my mom had seen my son was Christmas Eve. I had been begging her to come see him. I was home every day. And almost every day, I don't know, I would text her, hey, when you come to see Alex? And she wouldn't respond back, and time would go by and she wouldn't see him. I got to the office that day, my first day back from maternity leave. It was about 8:15 in the morning. I'm getting in and I get a text from my mom. And it said, hey, when can I see Alex? And do you know how I reacted? I threw down my cell phone and I said, F you, bitch. Now, my mom doesn't know I said that because I picked up my phone and I said, I would be happy to meet you anytime to see him. But then a couple hours later, I got that call that she had taken her life. And I now, for the rest of my life, have to live with my last visceral reaction to my mom, which was F you. You never know what your last words to someone will be. And I know my mom believes they were of kindness, but I'll know in my heart that they weren't. So never take anyone or take anything for granted. I love you, each and every one of you. Thank you for hanging out here with me today. And I am so honored and blessed to have had this time with you. Thank you.